What's up, everybody? I'm Sergeant First Class Justin Morelli coming at you live with another episode of Trivia Tuesday. It's episode 11, so welcome back to all you return viewers and anyone that's new and joining us for this first time. Buckle up, it's about to be a wild ride. We're going to have a lot of fun today. In fact, as New Englanders would say, we would say wicked fun or super fun. So it's going to be a lot of fun today. You're going to learn a ton of new information, or if you already know it, then you're going to win some prizes potentially. So let's do this. We're gonna have a great time. So if you are tuning in and you are unsure of how to play, you are going to watch the YouTube stream on one device, and on your second device you'll use Kahoot.it, and you'll enter the code 7975855. So I say that again, 7975855, and we'll switch over here just for a second so you can see it. Right now we have 13 players, so we'll give everyone a shot to jump on. We'll give them another minute or so because people are still getting on as we speak. So we're up to 14 players. Bumblebee Tuna, welcome, or Bumblebee Tuna just joined us, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, we have lot of different players. Let me see. We got Little Miss Lincoln. She's a new player. We got Croissant, return player. Rain Man. The deck isn't done, and that's a fact. And She What It Is. So yeah, welcome to all of you that are just joining us for the first time. I see you out there, Hoya Kane and Apple Pie. Welcome back. We just lost a player. Oh, all right. So be ready, ladies and gentlemen. Just so you're aware, your internet connection may affect your play today, but if nothing else, just follow along and have fun with it. Remember to hit your live button on YouTube so that you can stay as refreshed as possible. We do have ultra low latency right now, so we broadcast, we're as real time as we can be, but it's still about a 5-second lag. You can have 30 seconds to answer each question on Kahoot. So as is always the case, I will read the question and the potential answers, and as soon as you answer those questions, the more points you get. So the sooner you answer the questions, the more points you get. We will have double points questions, so be ready for that. And with that being said, I think it's about time to get started. So we got 15 players. I think that's a good turnout for today. So let's go ahead and get started with that first question. All right, as everyone knows, I started out with U.S. history and U.S. facts. So just so you're aware, some of these are going to be quite difficult. There will be 3 questions worth double points. So if you don't know the answers, that's all right. You're still going to learn something fun. And let's go ahead and kick it off with that first question. All right, so times 2. So known as the female Paul Revere, this 16-year-old girl rode 40 miles to warn Continentals that the British arrived in Connecticut. So was it A, Sybil Ludington, B, Mary Ludwig Hayes, C, Patience Wright, or D, Esther Debrett Reed? And we got 9 answers in so far with about 15 seconds remaining. So just to be specific, the area was Danbury, Connecticut. So some of you might be familiar with that area if you're New England players. We got 5 seconds remaining, so I'm going to give you the countdown of 3, 2, and 1. Your time is up. So we got 5 with the correct answer. 8 guessed on Mary Ludwig Hayes. So all right, ladies and gentlemen, so Mary Ludwig Hayes was Molly Pitcher, and we have covered her in a previous episode, but today we're going to talk about Sybil Ludington, because that little 16-year-old girl was a total, well, she was pretty awesome and very, very brave. So her father was a colonel in the Continental Army, and he had his militiamen, but they were all at home for the evening when the British arrived in Danbury, Connecticut, and they began to ransack the town. So as much as Colonel Ludington wanted to actually ride out and get all of his men, he needed to stay in place so that he could, as his men reported in, he could issue orders. So Sybil took on that role and rode 40 miles, warning everyone. She was able to elude spies and everybody else along the way. and warn all the militiamen to come out, and they were able to harry out the British forces and fight them off. So props to her. That's pretty cool. There are some statues out there remembering her, but as I said, quite an impressive feat for a 16-year-old to accomplish. So with all of that, I think it's about time that we go ahead and check out the leaderboard. So, all right, in first place so far we have Croissant. We have DeForth J. Sorry, I had to think about that one for a second, and my eyesight seems to be going just a little bit. We got Rain Man, Bumblebee Tuna, and Little Miss Lincoln. So great job, guys, to all of you that got it correct. And yeah, so let's go ahead and move on to the next question. All right, it's another ×2, so be ready. The first 200 printed copies of the Declaration of Independence are known as what? Was it A, the Franklin prints, B, the Jefferson drafts, C, the Dunlap broadsides, or D, the Jefferson broadsides? So we got 3 answers in so far, 5 answers in, 7 answers in, 8 answers in. They're coming in quick, so get those answers in. We got about 10 seconds remaining. A lot of interesting stuff here about the Declaration of Independence, and it's just an interesting document all around. Okay, so all of our answers are in, and we only got 3 with the correct answer. So it is the Dunlap broadside. So a little bit about the Declaration of Independence. Couple interesting facts. First, nowhere in the Declaration of Independence do they actually mention the word independence. So I always thought that that was pretty interesting. But additionally, someone like Ben Franklin, who at the time was one of the most skilled printers of the day, he actually had nothing to do with the printing of it. They took it to an Irish immigrant by the name of John Dunlap, and he was in Philadelphia. He printed 200 copies, of which they distributed, because at that time, news only traveled as fast as the fastest horse. So although they had handwritten copies, there was printed copies that they more or less displayed as posters or placards around the country within the colonies. So pretty awesome stuff. There's definitely a level of imperfections that you see in the Dunlap broadsides, and I think it's pretty fascinating because you can tell it was done in haste and there was excitement behind it. So they were getting, so excited that Dunlap, as he was putting it all together to print this out, you can realize he made minor mistakes. He just didn't have the overall, perfection that many printers would have if they were taking their time. And it's not that he wasn't capable, but you can tell that absolutely he was excited and rushed, and they wanted to get it out, and they got it out on July 4th, 1776, as we all know. So a couple other little things. New England has, there's only 26 remaining copies of the Dunlap broadsides. You can see them in several places. Obviously, DC has a couple copies. There's many throughout New England, one being in Exeter, New Hampshire, actually, located at the Ladd Gilman House, which is also the American Independence Museum. So really cool museum, worth checking out. In the 80s, actually, they found a hidden copy of one of the broadsides, actually glued in essentially behind a painting. And they bought that painting, someone had bought that painting for $4 at a yard sale. And when they looked behind the painting and realized that there was actually a copy of the Declaration of Independence, yeah, that went for quite a bit more. I think it was like, millions. So if any of you live in a historic home, definitely take a look around, because there's still many unaccounted versions of the Dunlap broadside. So maybe you'll be the next one to find one. And they keep turning up, actually. Over the last 20 years, there's been a number of them that have turned up. So, all right. So I think it's about time to move on to the next question. So let's go ahead and get it started. All right, so Rain Man takes the lead with Little Miss Lincoln right behind, and Bumblebee Tuna is in 3rd place. Croissant drops down to 4th, and DeForth J is in 5th. So great job to Rain Man, Little Miss Lincoln, Bumblebee Tuna. You guys are definitely crushing it. Anyone on the leaderboard is doing a great job, but get those points up. You can see that there's quite a bit of a difference there between Rain Man and DeForth J. So I expect to see some turnover here real soon, as it always is because it gets interesting as people go on. So with that being said, let's go ahead and move on to the next question. All right, it's another times two. With their husbands away fighting the British, the women of Pepperell, Massachusetts formed their own militia known as what? A, the Minute Woman, B, the Fighting Dames of Pepperell, C, Mrs. David Wright's Guard, or D, the Pepperell Patriots. So we have 5 answers in, 15 seconds remaining. This is actually, this photo is actually a page out of one of the books that was written about this particular group of Minute Women, essentially. All right, so yes, we got 4 with the correct answer. It's Mrs. David Wright's Guard. So, interestingly enough, Mrs. Wright founded this group. All the men were off fighting in the battles of Lexington and Concord at the time, and so she said, who's going to stay back and defend us? So Pepperell, Massachusetts, located just on the border of New Hampshire, actually. Mrs. Wright was from Hollis, New Hampshire, and she took it upon herself to create this militia group. So there was about 30 to 40 women that were serving. And one of the most notable things that they did, and this gets pretty crazy. So her brother was a loyalist sympathizer, and she had overheard her brother talking to a couple other people about bringing British spies in from Canada. And so she, as she overheard this, she said, okay, I can't have that because that puts my husband at risk. So she ended up staging out on one of the only bridges in Pepperell at the time, and they intercepted those spies as they were being brought in. And these militia women, they apprehended these 2 spies and took sensitive documents off of them, sent those documents down to Boston, and surprisingly enough, her own brother, she put away for a very long time in jail. He went to jail and then ended up having to leave to go to England. So they never were able to reconcile after that, obviously. But interesting fact for sure. Many women have done incredible things throughout our history, but I just thought that these particular women were worth highlighting this week. So let's go ahead and check out the leaderboard. And we got Rain Man still in the lead, but Croissant climbs back up to 2nd. We got Little Miss Lincoln sitting tight in 3rd, Bumblebee Tuna into 4th J. So no real change over there, but up 9 places, his deck isn't done, and he is the highest climber right now. So great job to all of you. Let's go ahead and move on to the next question. All right, so which U.S. president won 300 wrestling matches and is enshrined at the National Wrestling Hall of Fame? Was it A, Zachary Taylor, B, Abraham Lincoln, C, William H. Taft, or D, Teddy Roosevelt? So we got 9 answers in so far with 15 seconds remaining. You guys are doing great. A lot of presidents throughout our day have been pretty tough, but there's one in particular that, okay. All right, so we got 6 with the correct answer, and it is, in fact, Abraham Lincoln. So Abraham Lincoln, tall and lanky, that worked to his advantage when he was wrestling. And so he had over 300 matches and only had lost 1. That one match that he lost was when he was a captain in the Army, and a soldier had challenged him to a wrestling match, and he lost that one and only match. The rest of the time, he was always triumphant because, like I said, those long limbs worked to his advantage. And apparently, he liked to talk a little bit of smack when he was wrestling. So he's been known to stand in front of a crowd and let his opponent have it. So, yeah. Also, George Washington was quite the wrestler too. Even at 47 years old, he took on 8 different members of the Massachusetts militiamen, and he was able to defeat all of them as well. So, just an interesting sport. And at the National Wrestling Hall of Fame, there is a commemoration to Abraham Lincoln because of his wrestling background. So, let's go ahead and get to that leaderboard and see what is going on here. So Rain Man drops down to 4th place, but Croissant climbs up to 1st. Little Miss Lincoln is in second, so great job to her. Bumblebee Tuna is up to third. Rain Man, as I said, dropped down to fourth. And Apple Pie is on the leaderboard, so welcome, Apple Pie. I see that you've come back again for the second week in a row, so we welcome you back for sure. Hoya Kane, though, right now is the highest climber, so be on the lookout for her. She's a return player, and she has won a couple of weeks so far. So great job to everyone. I think it's about time that we move on to the next question. All right, the current U.S. flag, designed by Robert G. Heft, was first flown on what date? Was it A, July 4th, 1776, B, July 4th, 1960, C, July 4th, 1980, or D, July 4th, 1995? So think about, I'll give you guys a little hint, just think about when the last two states were added to the Union, and that should give you the general ballpark, with obviously Hawaii and Alaska being the newest addition. So 3 seconds remaining, 14 answers in, and your time is now up. So yes, good job to everyone. We got 11 with the correct answer on that one. So yes, it was July 4th, 1960. And let me tell you a little bit of interesting news about Robert G. Heft. So he was 17 at the time, and it was a school project for him to design a flag. All the students across the country were designing flags. 1,500 submissions overall were submitted to Congress. And so Mr. Heft's design actually earned him a B- in his class because his teacher just did not like it. But Mr. Heft went back to his teacher and said, listen, if Congress picks my design, will you give me a better grade? And sure enough, Congress picked his design, and his grade was changed to an A. So I just thought that was a pretty cool little fact. We do have he designed an additional flag with 51 stars, in the event that we did add an additional state at some point. But right now we still are sitting pretty with 50. So, a lot of history goes into that. But the 13, stars and stripes and all of that is it's great. So let's go ahead and take a look at the leaderboard here. All right, Croissant drops down, but Little Miss Lincoln climbs up to first place. So great job to her. I don't know exactly, Little Miss Lincoln, I guess she must have been a Little Miss Lincoln winner. So welcome. You're a first-time player, so I'm happy to see you here. Croissant drops down to second. Rain Man's in third. Bumblebee Tuna is in fourth. And Apple Pie stays on the leaderboard in fifth. But Backpack Shrek is the highest climber right now, and he's up 3 places. So awesome job to everyone. And it's about that time, so let's go ahead and check out the next question. All right. So we're going to move on to New England trivia. We've finished up American history, so there will be 2 questions in this round worth double points. If you are New Englanders, I think you're going to have some fun with these. There are a couple that are pretty obvious and a couple that are a little bit tricky, but as is always the case, get those answers in, take a stab at it, and if you don't get it right, you're still going to learn something. So let's do this and move on to the next question. All right, so times 2. This New Hampshireite became the first American to travel into space in 1961. Was it A, Neil Armstrong, B, John Glenn, C, Alan Shepard, or D, Buzz Aldrin? So all famous astronauts, American astronauts, but take a little bit of time and make sure you think this one through. They're all notable for something, but there's one in particular that was the first American in space. And he was from New Hampshire, actually. He was from Derry, so... All right, 5 seconds remaining. I'm going to give you that countdown with 3, 2, and 1. All right, we got 7 with the correct answer. So great job to everyone that got that right. It was, in fact, Alan Shepard, like I said, from Derry, New Hampshire. He was in fact the second human in space. We were a little bit behind initially in the space race, and we were losing to the Soviets, but we got that big win when we put a man on the moon, so that was a big one. But Alan Shepard, we wouldn't have had paved the way for Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin to land on the moon if it hadn't been for Alan Shepard. So pretty cool stuff. And Alan did actually go on to walk on the moon again in 1971. But yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at the leaderboard. And Little Miss Lincoln drops down to 4th, but Rain Man climbs up to 1st. So welcome, Rain Man. You are a return player. It's always good to see you. But to see you up in the top of the pack right now, I'm impressed. So Apple Pie climbs up as well. So great job to you, Apple Pie. Let's hope you can keep it up. I know that last week you had some problems with the internet connection. Bumblebee Tuna is up into 3rd. Little Miss Lincoln down to 4th. And Croissant is in 5th. So Mojo Man is the highest climber, up 5 places. So let's see if Mojo Man, who placed in 2nd a couple weeks ago, might be able to make it onto the leaderboard. All right. Let's do it. It's that time. So we're going to go to the next question. A popular tourist attraction in Rockport, Massachusetts, this house is made entirely of this material. Was it A, red maple trees, B, newspapers, C, recycled plastics, or D, Milford pink granite? So for those of you that are from this area, you might know about this place. If you take a look at the picture, I don't think it really gives it away too much, but take a stab at it. It's definitely an interesting building material. But we got 13 answers in with 5 seconds remaining. So I'm going to give you that countdown with 3, 2, and 1. And your time is up. So, all right. 8 got the correct answer. So yes, it is in fact built out of newspapers. Everything in the house. I mean, they even have an organ. All the furniture is all made out of newspapers. So I know that there's some people out there that collect newspapers. I don't know why, but I think that that's a good potential building material. So yeah, props to them. If you guys ever want to go visit it, it's in Rockport, and it is an interesting place. So I think it's about that time. Let's go ahead and check out that leaderboard. All right, Rayman drops back down to 2nd. Apple Pie moves up into 1st place. So great job, Apple Pie. You are on fire right now with 5 correct answers in a row. Bumblebee Tuna is in 3rd. Hoya Kane is up to 4th. And Little Miss Lincoln drops down to 5th. So, all right, guys. You guys are doing great. Keep it up. And let's go ahead and check out that next question. All right. In what New England state did childhood friends Ben Cohen and Jerry Greenfield create Ben & Jerry's ice cream? Was it A, Connecticut, B, Maine, C, Vermont, or D, Massachusetts? So for those of you that are from the New England area, you should know this one hands down. That's why it's not a ×2. It's not worth double points. But we have 15 answers in so far with 11 seconds remaining, 10 seconds remaining. And we'll let it run out unless, of course, you guys all get your answers in before that. But we're going to go ahead and give the countdown with 3, 2, 1, and the time is up. So yes, all right, that's what I like to see. We got 15 with the correct answer. So Ben & Jerry's, who doesn't love it? You know, it's located up in Vermont. If you ever get the chance to go visit, they have free ice cream samples. So who's complaining about that? But overall, yes, it's an interesting, company. They do a lot within the New England area and just across the country to help people out. Started, from a good cause and everything else, but clearly just delicious ice cream all around. So let's go ahead and move on to the leaderboard. And Apple Pie drops down. Must have been just a little bit slow on the answer time there because he's not too far back, but Rain Man and Bumblebee Tuna climb up. Rain Man's back in 1st and Bumblebee Tuna's in 2nd. So Hoya Kane's on fire right now with 5 correct answers in a row, and Little Miss Lincoln's down in 5th still. So great job, guys. You guys are definitely very impressive with your knowledge here. And let's go ahead and do this and move on to the next question. All right, in 1952, the first television advertisement for children aired for this fun Rhode Island Hasbro-made toy. So some of you might remember I've had some Hasbro questions here before, but I'll give you the hint. It is not what you might think based off of my previous question. So it's either A, Power Rangers, B, Mr. Potato Head, C, G.I. Joe, or D, Transformers. And we got 11 answers in with 15 seconds remaining. So you guys are doing great. Hasbro is the 3rd largest toy company in the world, located in Rhode Island actually. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, 3 seconds remaining, 16 answers are in, and boom, all right, time is up, but we got 9 with the correct answer. So yes, it was Mr. Potato Head, which, interestingly enough, Mr. Potato Head was invented by a New Yorker, and he initially, said, well, you can put these things on any vegetable, really. But at the time, there was it didn't really feel right because there was a bit of a shortage of vegetables, and they didn't want, kids using them as toys when people could be eating them. So anyways, he initially distributed his products through a cereal box, but Hasbro came across it, and they got together. He pitched his idea to Hasbro, and they said, all right, yeah, we're doing this. So they ended up creating what we know as Mr. Potato Head. All throughout Rhode Island, there are Mr. Potato Head statues, and there's one very giant one. So if you guys are ever in the area, you can see in 2000, actually, they started a project to put Mr. Potato Head statues all over the place. So just, kind of fun, and I thought that I'd point that out. So great job to the 9 of you that got that correct, and the couple that took a stab at it, better luck next time, and let's go ahead and move on to the leaderboard. All right, so Hoya Kane jumps up to first place. Bumblebee Tuna is right behind in second. Rain Man drops down to third. Apple Pie's in fourth, and Little Miss Lincoln's in fifth. So Hoya Kane has the highest answer streak of 6. Great job to her. Like I said, she is a return player, and she's definitely a threat when it comes to Trivia Tuesday. So with all of that, let's go ahead and move on to the next question. All right, it's a times 2. So in 1891, the sport of basketball was invented in Massachusetts by who? Was it A, Red Auerbach, B, Finley MacDonald, C, Dr. James Naismith, or D, Larry Bird? So get those answers in as quick as you can. And we got 13 answers in with 10 seconds remaining. Great job, everyone. Oh, okay. All right. All the answers are in. So we got 12 with the correct answer on that. And yes, it is Dr. James Naismith. So interestingly enough, this guy, so he did a lot of work out in Springfield. He worked at the YMCA, Springfield College, and the YMCA tasked him with creating a new indoor game that would give people a good workout and keep them active so that during the winter months they could still get their exercise in. And so he had some peach baskets, and he ended up nailing them up to the top floor, basically within the gymnasium. And there you have it. It was basketball was born. And originally the peach baskets were, well, after anyone scored a basket, they had to have a janitor with a ladder go and take the ball out of the basket. But eventually they knocked out the bottoms of those baskets, and things progressed, and eventually it became a metal hoop and netting and a backboard and everything else. So starting out, there was only 13 rules to basketball. It has become quite a bit more complicated since then. But bit about Dr. James Naismith. So he actually was an Army chaplain. So he was a Canadian-American citizen, and he served in the U.S. Army as a chaplain. So pretty cool. We do have, religious representatives within the Army. So regardless of your religious preference, you can go see a chaplain, and they're just a great resource to have. So Dr. James Naismith, he was in fact one of those, and really just a creative, innovative guy, and thought that it was cool to highlight that. So lots of sports have been played in New England or invented in New England, but basketball, yes, it got its home, or it got its start in Springfield. So let's go ahead and take a look at the leaderboard. All right. Hoya Kane stays in first, Bumblebee Tuna stays in second, but Apple Pie's back up to third. Little Miss Lincoln moves up to fourth, and Rain Man drops down to fifth. So three players have reached an answer streak of 3 so far. So you guys are definitely doing a great job. And I think it's about that time where we go ahead and move on to the next question. All right, so we're gonna get into Army history and facts. So that means that there will be 5 questions remaining. As you know, we do 15 questions per Trivia Tuesday. So 5 left. That means that all of you have a decent chance of knocking off and dethroning someone that's currently on the leaderboard to finish it out strong. So I will tell you, a lot of these I think are gonna be easy for you, but you know, go ahead and give it a shot. There's only 2 questions worth double points. So it's that time. We're moving on to the last 5, and let's get it started. All right, June 16th, 1775 is the birth date of this branch within the U.S. Army. Was it A, the infantry, B, finance corps, C, field artillery, or D, the signal corps? So we have branches within the Army. I know that a lot of people think of, you know, branch of service like, you know, the difference between the Navy and the Army and the Marines, but actually within the Army we have branches as well. So several branches, you know, were created over time, of course, but there's one particular one that was born today in 1775. So 15 answers are in with your time having run out. So we only got 1 with the correct answer. So oops. I thought for sure you guys would have done a little bit better on that, but infantry was born on June 14th, 1775. So when the Army was created, you know, the first thing that came with that was the infantry, of course, because that is the backbone of the Army. But soon to follow was the finance corps, because of course, if you're going to be a soldier, you know, you want to get paid as well. So it is still a career, it is still a profession, and we are paid for our services. You know, we all, I believe, most of us are selfless and we want to give back in some way, shape, or form. But you know, there's obviously a you know, payment that comes with that. So finance corps came right behind. Field artillery came a little bit later. I think it was in November, and then the signal corps came many years after. So in 1860, actually, the signal corps started. But the infantry, like I said, the backbone, that was June 14, 1775, and June 16th, the pay started. So, all right. I apologize. I thought more of you would have gotten that one correct, but yeah, let's go ahead and see what that did to the leaderboard. So Bumblebee Tuna got it right. So moving up to first place, Hoya Kane drops down to second, Apple Pies in third, Little Miss Lincoln's in fourth, and Rayman stays in fifth. So this is the combo breaker. 3 players just dropped their answer streak of 3. So yeah, that was a tough one, ladies and gentlemen. I do apologize. I thought for sure that that one would have been a little bit more obvious, but sometimes what I think is easy is not what everyone else thinks is easy, but I think that that's what makes this fun. So with all of that, let's go ahead and check out the next question. All right, it's a times 2. So this U.S. president is the only to have served as an enlisted soldier and not an officer. Was it A, Dwight D. Eisenhower, B, William McKinley, C, James Buchanan, or D, Ulysses S. Grant? Now, some of you will know a couple of these names right off the bat, and there's a couple that maybe are a little bit more obscure, but there's one that stands out. He served as a private in the U.S. Army, actually. And yeah, so we got about 5 seconds remaining with 13 answers in, so I'm going to give you that countdown with 3, 2, and 1. And your time is up, ladies and gentlemen, but we got 7 with the correct answer, so great job to all of you who guessed James Buchanan or who answered James Buchanan. So yes, it was James Buchanan. He served as a private in the U.S. Army, and he's actually was he saw you know, battle during the defense of Baltimore. For those of you that don't know, you know, the Star-Spangled Banner, you know, our national anthem, was written about the Battle of Baltimore during the War of 1812. And Francis Scott Key, you know, saw, you know, as you know, as the fort was under attack, he just saw that the flag was still flying, and that inspired him to write the national anthem, or the Star-Spangled Banner. But James Buchanan was there, and he went on to become a president. So typically, you know, throughout history, officers have you know, gone on to become president, but James Buchanan's that one exception to the rule, and I just thought it was an interesting fact to point out. So great job to the 7 of you that got it correct, and let's go ahead and take a look at the leaderboard. All right, so Bumblebee Tuna stays in first. with Apple Pie jumping back up to second. And Hoya Kane's in third. Deck Isn't Done is now back on the leaderboard in fourth. And She What It is in fifth. So great job, ladies and gentlemen. That's pretty awesome. Yeah, I don't know who Bumblebee Tuna is, but you guys have got to try to catch him or her because Apple Pie is about 1,000 points back, or a little bit less than 1,000 points back, and Hoya Kane's not too far back behind that. Deck Isn't Done's got some work to do. Maybe with another double points question, they might be able to catch him. And She What It is in about the same boat as Deck Isn't Done. So great job, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know what happened to Little Miss Lincoln and some of the other leaders, but let's see what happens here with these last couple of questions and see how it pans out. So it's about to get exciting. And with all of that, let's go ahead and check out the next question. Who created and delivered the U.S. Army's first airplane in 1909? Was it A, the Wright brothers, B, the Boeing Company, C, the Ford Motor Company, or D, North American Aviation? So we got 20 seconds remaining with 5 answers in so far. You guys are getting those answers in real fast. I can't even keep up. But I will say that, you know, most of the time there's not always hints in the pictures, but this one might be a bit obvious to any of you out there. So get those answers in. You got 3 seconds remaining, so I'm going to give that countdown with 3, 2, and 1, and your time is up, ladies and gentlemen. So the Wright brothers it is. So 6 got that answer correct. It was not the Boeing Company, although Boeing has been, a huge influence within the aviation industry. And Ford Motor Company, interestingly enough, of an answer, but nope, had nothing to do with the first airplane. So for those of you that are return viewers, you might remember that the Army got its first airplane, pretty early on. So actually in 1907, they dreamed up this idea of using aircraft within the Army. And it wasn't long after that the Wright brothers delivered. So they originally started with just 3 first lieutenants that were crazy enough, I guess, to say, yeah, we want to get into aviation, even though it was a completely new field. And so one of them unfortunately died in one of the first aircraft accidents ever, and but the other 2 went on. They had the Wright brothers planes, and then wasn't long after that about 40 years later that the Air Force was born from the Army Signal Corps. So great job to all of you that got it right, to the 60 of you that got it right, and everyone else, stay motivated, because there's still a chance that you could come back and upset somebody that's sitting on that leaderboard. But speaking of the leaderboard, let's get to it. All right. Hoya Kane climbs up into first place. Bumblebee Tuna drops down to second. Apple Pie stays on the board in third place. And Little Miss Lincoln's back on in fourth. And Deck Isn't Done drops down to fifth. So great job, ladies and gentlemen. And let's go ahead and take a look at that next question. This celebrity, known as the King of Rock and Roll, served in the U.S. Army from 1958 to 1960. Was it A, John Lennon, B, Keith Richards, C, Jimmy Page, or D, Elvis Presley? Some of you might be a little bit too young to recognize who this person is, but if you're one of the older players out there, you should probably know who this guy is. The picture is, in fact, the answer. So get those answers in. We got 10 seconds remaining, and 13 answers are in thus far. 14 now, so 5 seconds remaining, and I'm going to give you that countdown with 3, 2, and 1. Boom. All right, so all 15 of you got that answer correct with Elvis Presley. All right, great job, ladies and gents. That was a freebie, but I figured it was fun to throw in there nonetheless. So yeah, Elvis, the King of Rock and Roll, it was actually surprising. So he wasn't very well liked initially by many parents out there. He was all the rage within the younger crowd, but parents they weren't into rock and roll. He was controversial, to say the least. And so when he ended up serving in the Army, he had the option to serve basically as an entertainer, to entertain the troops, but he chose instead to be just a regular enlisted soldier and to serve alongside of normal regular soldiers, rather than having special privileges. So of course, he was Elvis, but that actually boosted his reputation, and a lot of people started to view him differently after that. And not long after he got out of the Army, he started singing more ballads and kind of toned down some of his rock and some of his hip gyrations and whatnot that were all controversial at the time. So he became what we know now as the king of rock and roll. I mean, he, after his time in the Army, he appealed to everyone and made history. So all right, 15 with the correct answer. So this is going to do a lot to the leaderboard, but let's get to it and take a look. All right, so Hoya Kane stays in first. Apple Pie is in second. Climbing up to second, so great job, Apple Pie. Bumblebee Tuna drops down to third. Little Miss Lincoln's in fourth, and Deck Isn't Done is hanging on tight in fifth. So Hoya Kane is about 1,000 points up on Apple Pie. So let's see what happens here. If she gets one wrong, there is a chance she will fall right off that leaderboard. So, all right, it's that time, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go ahead and move on to the next question. All right, so times two. Which of these famous Washington, D.C. landmarks did the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers complete in 1884? Was it A, the Lincoln Memorial, B, the Jefferson Memorial, C, the Washington Monument, or D, the White House? So the Army Corps of Engineers, if you've played before, you've heard a lot of, a couple questions about them anyways. They've just done so much for us, but I'll tell you this much, that picture there of the Pentagon they built, the Army Corps of Engineers built, and they built it in an astonishingly small amount of time for a building that large. But all right, 9 with the correct answer. So yes, it was the Washington Monument. And the Washington Monument, obviously built to commemorate George Washington, was started initially by a private company and finished by the Army Corps of Engineers because it took quite a while. They kept hitting roadblocks along the way, and finally the Army Corps of Engineers stepped in and said, all right, we got this and we're going to finish it up. So they were able to finish it up in 1884, to pay homage to our first president and commander-in-chief. So pretty cool. The Army Corps of Engineers, just so many different capabilities. Like I said, they built the Pentagon, they built the Capitol building as well, actually, but in this particular case, they did not have a hand in the Lincoln Memorial, the Jefferson Memorial, or the White House. It was just the Washington Monument. So 9 with the correct answer, and that is going to do it, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go ahead and see what's going on here with this leaderboard. And we got the podium right now. So in third place, the Deck Isn't Done. So great job to Deck Isn't Done jumping up there. Hoya Kane drops down to second. And in first place, ladies and gentlemen, who's it going to be? It is Apple Pie, ladies and gentlemen. Great job to Apple Pie. I know that last week he was hanging on and had an internet connection, glitch there at the last minute that dropped him off the leaderboard. But great job to the three of you, Apple Pie, Hoya Kane, and Deck Isn't Done. There are prizes to be had for all of you. So great job to everyone that turned out to play today. Definitely, I think it was a fun episode. So episode 11, as I've said before, I can't believe we've come this far. We do have plans to continue moving forward. We're locked in until at least episode 15. So if you have any trivia buffs out there or history enthusiasts that might want to come out and join us, please spread the word. We're looking for as many players as possible. I understand maybe you guys don't want the competition, but I'm telling you right now, from my perspective, the more players, the better. The more players that we have, the more exciting it is. So yeah, holy mackerel, what a week it's been. And thanks so much for coming out to join us. Once again, we'll see you again next week at 5 p.m. or 1700. And yes, I am Sergeant First Class Justin Morelli signing out. And in the meanwhile, we'll see you next week. Stay tuned and take care. Stay safe and healthy.